Good morning. So thanks to everybody who left the messages saying that I should keep doing this forever. I do think eventually I will run out of things that make me feel anxious or wobbly. So before we carry on, three important things. The first thing is, you're all miserable dogs who don't go to the wait until the end, so you never hear me asking you to share this. If you think it's funny, if you think it could help somebody else who's struggling with anxiety or mental illness, please share it, because then more people like my page, and then that lets me know that everybody loves me and the world is fine, which I know is, you know, probably not that healthy, but nevertheless, that's my thing, so do it. The second thing that I wanted to say to you is that as Facebook is, sometimes it doesn't always show this to you in your feed. So there is a way, I do post these back to my blog, and there is a way that I could send you a daily email with a link to this. If you want that, just say email me in the bottom and then DM me your email address. There's no commenting that you want it to be sent to me. I don't have your email address. And the third thing is that today we're going to talk about Penny's little box of magic pills. So I think it is incumbent upon me to say to you all, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. In fact, if you think it's medical advice, it's probably time for you to see a doctor. So let's go through the backstory first, I think. So, as most of you will know, Josh was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, which is a terminal, aggressive, really nasty cancer, in January of 2017. He, up until that moment, had been one of those kind of perfect kids in terms of health. He hadn't seen a doctor, I don't think, in 5 years. And suddenly he went from being this incredibly healthy child to somebody who was dying. And originally we were kind of given 2 months, but he took palliative treatment and lived for another 364 days, which was an awesome 364 days. And for about the first 350 of those days, I thought I could just be strong. I thought I was doing fine. And I realized that I was getting more and more miserable. It was harder for me to have the kind of honest conversations with Josh, and that was one of the things that he had demanded when he was first diagnosed, was that we would always be honest about what's going on. But I found myself hiding things from him because they were too difficult for me to talk about, and I was afraid of him seeing me cry and be a wreck. So about day 350, I go very embarrassedly to my friend who was a neurologist, because at that time I was so anxious. I was like, I can't go and see my GP about this. It's just, you know, too much. But I also felt very much like I was overstepping the boundaries of my friendship to go to her. I mean, she's a neurologist, not a psychiatrist or a GP, and say to her, you know, I'm struggling. Anyway, I got all screwed up my courage, and I went to her, and her response was pull her prescription book straight out of her handbag and tell me that she'd been waiting for me to ask for her help for several months. And she originally helped me with a little tablet called Urbanol, which is a tranquilizer, which really helped, and an antidepressant called Brintalex, which sort of helped for a little while. And then what happened in the story is that Shannon, after Josh died, was feeling really bad. I won't go into details, that's his story to tell, but our GP suggested to him that maybe he should go see a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist really has helped him a lot. So he sent our son, Christopher, and then when I was having about my 50th meltdown of the week a few months ago, Chris said to me that it was time for me to see a psychiatrist, and that I really didn't need to be scared because the psychiatrist was really nice. So even before I'd seen a psychiatrist, what had happened was that the psychiatrist had given both Shannon and Christopher Ritalin as a way to help use their energy. So one of the things that all three of us are finding is that we get extremely tired. We sleep all the time. And he had prescribed Ritalin to them to make them feel awake. And so, being just exactly like those irresponsible parents that you hear about, I stole one of Christopher's Ritalins and I tried it. And it was amazing. I could concentrate, I had energy. So I thought, well, I can't continue being one of those awful people who steal their children's medication. I've got to go get this sorted out. So I went to my GP, and the first of the tablets that we will talk about today is, let me find this one, Fortisol. So right up front when Josh was diagnosed, my doctor started my blood pressure and realized that with stress, with the increase in weight, that I had high blood pressure. So he put me on these tablets. Really, I'm hoping to get off them as I lose the weight. She also actually at the same time gave me baby aspirin to take, but I don't take it because one, my blood pressure is now under control, and two, don't you really hate that foil packaging that Disprin comes in? I mean, it's been in the same packaging for like 5 bazillion years, and still it has the same packaging. Now, the reason I'm telling you about the high blood pressure tablets is because I go to the doctor, and with my doctor, the first thing they always do is check your blood pressure, and my blood pressure was absolutely sky high. So she was like, oh my word, like, okay, something's going on here. And I was like, well, can I just like confess to you before you do anything with my blood pressure? Like, and she was like, oh my God, what's happening? Are you having an affair? Like, what's going on? And I said to her, well, no, actually, it's worse than that. I stole my child's medication. And she was like, oh, is that all? And promptly wrote me out a script for kind of a week's worth of Ritalin of my own, rechecked my blood pressure, which then had come down because it stopped feeling really guilty, and sent me to the psychiatrist saying she thought it was time to actually, like, you know, my needs had kind of surpassed her level of expertise. So our psychiatrist, I have to tell you, he's a wonderful man. He trained first as a therapist and then went back to med school to become a psychiatrist. So I love our sessions because, you know, it's like therapy with a prescription at the end. It's wonderful. And I thought I would take you through all the wonderful little box of tricks he's given us, and also some of the ways where you could be maybe a little bit right about my obsessive compulsion. So the first tablets that we have here are these little babies. I take 2 of them, and wait a second, because I'm showing you something that is at the heart of some of my compulsion. So these little babies are Venlaw. Venlaw, I am told, is the gold standard of anxiety medication. He decided, after talking to me for a while, that I didn't really have the depression that I thought I had, that I had generalized anxiety disorder with obsessive compulsion. So not OCD, but just compulsions. And maybe some of the reason he might say that is, can you see these 2 packets? Let me get them so that you see the problem here. This one has 2 missing, and this one has 3 missing. That's because you actually step up on these tablets. So you start taking these ones, then you take these ones, and then you take them both together after 3 weeks. And the first one that I took, this one, actually I hadn't yet had the script filled, but Shannon's on the same medication, so I took his the first night, or the first morning before I had the script filled. And now the pill packets are out of sync. I cannot tell you how this drives me nuts. Like, it just freaks me out more than I can tell you, to the point where I almost feel like taking this one and throwing it away, one of them, but it drives me so flippin' crackerjack. So that is Venlaw. We love Venlaw. I would say with Venlaw, it's really difficult to say with the kind of chronic medications because you don't feel radically different over time. But I guess it's, since I've been taking Venlaw, I've been able to do these Facebook Lives. I think, yeah, it is having a beneficial effect. I asked about side effects. Apparently, the big side effect on this one is that it takes longer to come to orgasm. Don't know how big a problem that is for you. Right, let's have a look at what else we've got in Mummy's. We've got more of those in Mummy's box of tricks. The next one that we have, we've got my all-time favourites. So this is Urbanol. So Urbanol is a kind of short-term tranquilizer. It is, I think, in the benzo family, but it's one of the ones that has been formulated at the kind of doses I take. So these are 10 milligrams, and at these doses it's not addictive in the way that some of the other benzos are, but it's lovely stuff. It just makes you feel just a little bit nicer, like the world is capable, like maybe everybody isn't out to get me. And I guess it's maybe an indicator that these ones are working is that I have gone from taking 10 milligrams a day to taking half, so 5 milligrams in the morning, and sometimes at lunchtime if something is going on. So like the other day, when Christopher comes home, he's written his drama exam, and he tells me, backstory is that of the two drama teachers, one of them is a very, 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 very devout born-again Christian. Christopher is a very, 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 very devout atheist, and they were asked to set up a scene about a doctor who had lost their faith a little bit, having seen things go on in the hospital, at which case Christopher wrote a scene about a doctor in a confession box confessing whilst a paedophile molested a child. So, yeah, that was a double Urbanol day for me. And then the other little fellow that we have that Mummy loves, and we'll talk about Urbanol in a moment, is Ritalin. So, you know, when a family member of ours was diagnosed with ADD years ago, I know that Ritalin was like a really unpopular choice. Lots of people really fought against the doctors for applying Ritalin, and I do think there's a trend sometimes with teachers to take naughty children and go, oh, you're ADD, have Ritalin. Our doctor prescribes Ritalin as really for two reasons. There's two problems that we're having. One, I've already mentioned, we fall asleep all the time, and the second thing is all three of us get derailed really easy in terms of concentration. So I'll be humming along, having a nice day, and if you say to me, okay, Penny, now you've got to go and figure out your launch plan for your book, I struggle with knowing where to start. And if you guys knew me before Josh got sick, you know, I'm like a really organized person. Like, I have plans. You've seen the lists. I have lots of lists. But actually, one of the reasons I knew I was in trouble was because I had no list, and I was finding it difficult to formulate a list. Again, you can see there's two things wrong with Ritalin. First is look at the packaging itself. Let me show you a whole one. Look at this. Why would you make it in like that random, like, kind of pack? Why would you do that? And secondly, if you are my son and I ask you, would you mind getting me a Ritalin from something? Why would you do this to the pack? Why? I mean, at least you didn't take it from like the middle, but why? Why do this? The thing about Ritalin, though, is that it makes you really focused, have loads of energy. You can see I've already taken mine this morning, and I can crank out. Yesterday, I cranked out 3,500 words on the book. Like, it's awesome stuff. It also, and again, do not try this at home unless you have your doctor's agreement. It also makes you stop thinking about food. So, guys, I have not thought about food since probably like 1975. Like, I think about food all the time. I finish breakfast and think about what I'm going to have for lunch. I plan our meals weeks in advance. I have the takeout recipes of everything. In fact, Uber Eats, best thing that ever happened in my life until this little fella came along, because now I don't think about food, and I love that. So I eat a whole lot less, but it does make me a little bit anxious. So what we have discovered, the psychiatrist and I, is a little bit of Urbanol, a little bit of Ritalin takes the edge off. So that is my magic combination. Again, guys, just to spell it out, I am not a doctor. Please don't take this advice. This is just me being silly about the things that make me feel better. And the last little thing is that when I last spoke to the psychiatrist, I did tell him that I had slept through the night, well, in 2 years, essentially, since the day Josh was first diagnosed, in fact, the day before, when he went in for tests. And so he gave me these little babies, still monks, and I sleep like a lamb. So for months now, I've really I haven't slept well, and because I haven't slept well, Shannon hasn't slept well, because I nudge him all through the night going, "You're snoring, you're annoying me." Yeah, I'm awake. Don't you want to be awake? So Shannon gets to sleep through the night too now. I have these, although he does say that I do wake up, I seem to wake up, I sleep talk a lot, and I wake him up and ask him like random questions. I can't remember what they are exactly, but like the other day I asked him, like, you know, why the psychiatrist was drowning the dogs in my grandma's pool or something like that. So that is my little box of tricks that is keeping me sane, well, sane-ish, you know, because I never really was that sane. On a serious note, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit even tomorrow, is that when I first started taking these pills, my question to the psychiatrist was, you know, is it feeling terrible when your kid died? Like, no, like, am I not pathologizing something that is kind of a normal thing? And, you know, the GP, my neurologist friend, the psychiatrist, they are all in agreement. If there is something that can make you feel like you can cope, then take it. So please, guys, I make light of these things. I love telling you my stupid stories about my anxiety and my obsessive compulsions. But really, guys, if you know somebody who's struggling with grief, if you know somebody who's struggling with mental illness, you don't have to suffer. Please, guys, you don't have to suffer. You can have your own little magic box of pills that can make it better whilst you figure out if it's a long-term solution or if it's just a way to help you up whilst you figure out the long-term solution. Okay, tomorrow we're going to talk about well, shall I tell you? I'm not sure. I did want to tell you one last thing though before I go. Lots of you say you don't always see this in your Facebook feed. So one of the things I do is I post this to the blog. If you would like to receive it every day in an email, I can set that up that every time I post on the blog, it will send an automatic email to you. You just have to put a comment in, so please send me an email, but you have to send me your email address. So either put it in the comment, or if you're private, put it in a direct message to me. But if you don't put the email in, I can't send you an email. Alrighty, I'll talk to you tomorrow.